In this video, I'll show you how to use LoggerPro to graph data. Now, I already have some data here in a spreadsheet. This happens to be a Google spreadsheet. But if I open up LoggerPro, this blank screen comes up, and I can enter in any data that I want just by clicking in the X and the Y columns. So, for instance, I could manually put in the first data point, so 1.35, 2.34. If I wanted to, or if I already had the data somewhere else, like this spreadsheet, I could just copy that data down. In this case, click inside one of my cells and then just paste it in there by right-clicking or Control V. Now it copied my headings in there as well, so I'm going to take those out. Now you notice that all of a sudden my graph updated. I'm pretty much done with the technical process of getting that data in. Now I just need to clean up my graph a little bit. So for instance, my x variable is not actually named x. That was my length. So what I'll do is I'll right-click where it says x, go into Column Options, Dataset X. I can do a lot from here. If I go into the Column Definition tab, the name of this is going to be length. The short name I'll call L, and the units for that will be meters, M. Now, in the options, I have a whole bunch of other options that I can consider here. For instance, what if I have error in measuring length? So let's say I'm using a meter stick, and I'm pretty confident that I'm within, say, half a centimeter, or maybe 1 centimeter. Let's say I'm confident that I'm within 1 centimeter, which is 0.01 meters. I can put that in as an error constant, and now on my points, you'll see that they will have error bars showing 1 centimeter. I could also program error into the use column option, and I could add error into my data set. But there's no reason for me to do that unless I know that there's different error associated with different measurements. So for now, it looks pretty good. We're done with our x data. For my y data, my vertical, my dependent variable, I'm going to go into column options again, column definition. That was called period, and we typically use a capital T for that in units of seconds. Again, I can do the same thing with error. Now, I don't really like the empty circles so much. They're kind of messy, so I'm going to change mine to filled circles. And I don't know, I don't like red. I prefer blue as my data points. Again, I can turn error bar calculations on. Let's say for this lab, I've seen that my reaction time is within, let's say, 1/10 of a second. So we'll program that error in as well. And when I hit done, you'll notice, a little bit hard to see, but you'll notice you can see those error bars. Those are brackets that just say, although my point is defined by a single number, that number really sits between a range of points. So here I have a graph with labeled axes, and just a couple more things to clean up. I probably want to add a title, so I can right-click on the graph and go to Graph Options. If I go to the Graph Options tab, I can title it. Mine's going to be period, verse, length, something descriptive and simple there. I can play around with the grid and how I want the grid to look. I can connect my points if I want, though rarely in science do we ever connect our actual data points. And so if I go to axes options, you'll notice in the graph, I'm only using about 1/4 of my graph. My scale vertically and my scale horizontally leave a lot of blank space. So I'm actually going to change my y-axis to go from 0, and it will end at, let's say, 5. Gives me a little bit of a buffer room, but not too much. And my x-axis, my horizontal, is, well, I'm also going to go from 0 to 5 because my last point occurs at 4. So when I hit done, you'll notice it makes my graph a little bit more visible, and from here I can do a lot of different analyses.